Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Prospero.ai stock market live streams. For everyone who's in here early today, welcome to the stream. Let me know in the chat if you could, if my voice sounds good and clear. I'm testing out a new microphone today, so I want to make sure that you guys are hearing me okay. The market is roaring today, so we got off to a good start with CPI data this morning that came in slightly weak in the core and as expected in the normal CPI release. So that got the market off on a good foot. And then we saw some positive ceasefire news within Israel and Hamas. You sound good. Sounds fine. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Hopefully sounds better than the last mic situation that I was trying to go with, but we got a new one figured out. So the market is in a bullish mood this morning. Sounds much better than it has in weeks. Awesome. Glad to hear it's working good. But then we also have some other news stories to talk about today, specifically what's happening in quantum stocks. IonQ and many others are rallying. Let me get a live look at what the quantum stocks are doing right now. I saw IonQ was up as much as 30% at one point. Yes, it's up 35% still right now. Let's look at QUBT is up 51%. So what made these stocks rally so much is that Microsoft in a blog post said that they are expecting and wanting businesses to be quantum ready. And this comes just a week after Jensen Huang put cold water on the whole rally. So it looks like George's call, being that NVIDIA, it's uncertain on how they will adapt to the next computer technology environment, and kind of purposefully said that it's maybe farther away than people are expecting, and it looks like Microsoft is expecting. We'll talk about all of those stocks and what this new news means. Then we have Meta announcing a cut in their workforce by about 5%, and Microsoft also announcing job cuts in some of their divisions. So a little bit surprising with companies having done so well, the stock market being up, the job market seeming strong, that they would make these announcements, and they are the leaders of this AI revolution and technology. So maybe they're seeing the efficiencies more so than a lot of other places and are able to make these cuts. So big banks reported this morning, and one of the numbers that stuck out to me was a number that BlackRock gave about their total AUM, which has now crossed $11 trillion. So we're going to talk about BlackRock and some of the other bank stocks. And then the man of the year, Elon Musk, who just makes headline after headline. Some more came out today, and Tesla stock is up about 7% right now on the day. So Elon Musk will have an office in the White House, which just furthers the story we've been talking about, how the connection between the government and Tesla seems like a bullish development for their full self-driving technology, and the regulations that they we're going to face being less strict. So this just furthers that position. But then also the SEC is opening up a new lawsuit against Musk. So we'll dive into those topics and what it means for Tesla stock. And last but not least, before we turn it over to the model portfolio update at the very end of the stream, I'm going to bring up a sector of stocks that have been just terrible in the last several months. There are a ton of names that you'll recognize. I have brought them up before on the stream, but never as a full sector like we are today. Going to look at them. They are just all at or near 52-week lows. So we'll bring those up at the end of the stream, and then discuss if there's events coming up that can make people more constructive on these names, can make them maybe have a bounce back rally in the not so distant future. Let's take a look now at the QQQ and the SPY net option sentiment in Prospero. With this rally we are seeing today, I would expect them to be at a more bullish level than they've been at in the recent history. Okay. All right, so for the QQQ and Prospero, we are seeing a 51 reading for net option sentiment. much more bullish level than we've been at in recent readings. And it's actually just about at a new high for the trend. So great to see. Hello, George. Welcome to the stream today.
How's my camera looking? Is it like I can barely see my screen?
It is looking a bit blurry today.
Let me see if I can fix that.
Okay. While George is fixing that camera, I'm going to look up the SPY in Prospero.
Better or worse?
Yeah, that looks a bit better. Definitely a bit better. Okay, so I'm seeing, I think now it's too bright. I think in the middle was our Goldilocks level. Yeah, there you go. That's good. Okay, so let me look at SPY in Prospero for net option sentiment. It is at 41. So QQQ at 51, SPY at 41. Comment from Mario. Hi all, a fun day on the street, at least for now. Yes. If you're a bull, it's a fun day. If you're a bear, probably one of the worst days you've had in a while, because the markets are up across the board. And like I was saying, George, before you got in here, it seemed like the market reacted positively to the CPI and the PPI reports and data that we've gotten in the past 2 days. So yesterday, PPI came in weak. Today, CPI came in as expected, except the core came in slightly weak, which I think the market was very happy about. And then there was also news on top of this pieces of data that we got that we'll get into in a moment about a ceasefire deal, which maybe is even furthering this rally. But it seemed like in the days leading into this inflation data we were getting, people were becoming more and more concerned about it. And now that we've gotten it, seems like a big risk has been taken off the board. I'm wondering if this big bullish bounce that we're seeing today is just the start of something that we can continue seeing. And especially we saw net options is looking much better in Prospero for both SPY and the QQQ. So you feeling a lot better about the market today than just a few days ago?
Well, I think A, yes, but I think B, what we're also seeing is that, kind of the Trump trade isn't the only thing to the market, right? And I think that's important, that we're not just trading at like reckless valuations that aren't grounded in anything, because when there was concerns about inflation, the market's attitude wasn't just like, whatever, Trump is going to make the market better, right? So it's nice to see that there's still some fundamentals trading, and clearly some of the weakness the market was showing was concern around more persistent inflation. And when that was relieved, we're seeing things, especially crypto, getting a lot better, right? So I think it's exactly the narrative we've been talking about, right? Which is that, people are expecting positive things for crypto, but they don't know of how much it's run already, if there's still value there. And, seeing kind of a better inflation and better interest rate environment attached to that, we can see that the market is still trying to figure out what the value is. But obviously, everyone can agree that, the macro conditions are still important. They are going to play into the value, which is, that should be encouraging for anyone, right? Because all we could ever hope for the market is that it's grounded in some numbers, right? It's nice to say, hey, the market's going up. That's kind of easy. But the problem with that, we can't also say that it's grounded in numbers, it's hard to rationalize what the right levels, what the right prices are. So to me, this is a very encouraging thing that we had a little bit of a setback, but that, there's going to be some rationale in the market, and not just like, careless, abandoned bull market, which is very hard to read when that is going to correct.
And I do want to mention, like I've done in the past, that like we still are at, I believe, 2.9% in trailing inflation over the past 12 months. And the Fed, their target, which they just continue to state, is 2%. So we're still not there, but the market doesn't seem to care about that. Do you think that's for good reason, or why does the market not care that we are at, like, haven't reached the 2% goal yet? And it seems like it's leveling off at this slightly higher rate.
Well, there's a lot to it. And I think one of the important things, right, is that, going in the right direction. That's going to be the important thing. And I think it's what we were talking about on Monday, right? I think there is some concern that if inflation was more persistent, that the Trump administration might not have, might not want to pursue policies that would send it down, right? And it's not like, the Fed is independent, but, Trump has a way of getting his way. So I think that was probably the fear. But, nothing directionally is what people really need to do. Obviously, the market would be, even better if it said, suddenly this was 2%, but people understand that there's 2% inflation, but people understand that there's a directionality to it. As long as it's heading into the right direction, we're going to see a healthy market. And I think that was the important thing, because when, recall like this, even bigger bear turn happened when the jobs numbers were really positive. So I think that was giving people some concern that inflation might be stickier. We might not have tamed the economy to the extent that people would want with our current, raises of interest rates. But, seeing the fact that, even with a healthier job market than some people expected, that, inflation is still going in the direction that people wanted, I think is important.
And so, like we've been talking about, the market was already in a bullish place today. And then we got some more good news. So Biden just did a press conference right before we started our stream, and it was reported that there's been a ceasefire deal agreed between Israel and Hamas and Gaza. I feel like we've been talking a lot about how we expect the global tensions to kind of persist and maybe elevate in this next administration. Maybe there's a side of that story we haven't highlighted as much, and maybe the world is going to surprise us, and countries are going to be a bit better behaved and come to agreements. Is that a possibility? Is this a sign that maybe the global tensions around the world can be a little bit better than we had been fearing maybe recently?
Well, I mean, I think given what we know about Trump's relationship with Putin, it's quite possible that those tensions de-escalate, and maybe Putin has even been waiting for like the grand unveiling of those tensions de-escalating. So yeah, I mean, I think obviously this got done very close to when Trump's taking office, and that could mean a lot of things. That could mean that basically the parties involved didn't want Trump to come into the mix in terms of what could happen, escalations, policies he might pursue, anything like that. I mean, or it could be something that the Biden administration was working on for a long time, that they just said, let's get this over the line. We've all been working hard on this, and who knows what turn it could take with an administration change. I mean, I think both of those could be parts of the truth. But yeah, I mean, I think the bigger, I don't, after kind of the initial thing, we weren't really seeing those Middle East tensions move the market very much. We weren't necessarily seeing, the tensions in Ukraine moving the market very much. I think the complete unknown and what we're going to have to see play out is what happens in China. Obviously, with the tariffs, what could happen with Canada now, that could be a very, especially inflationary situation. Tariffs could be an inflationary situation. Both of the, with China, both of those can apply political strain, economic strain. So I think we could see very different issues that affect the market very differently. But I think at the end of the day, where people's comforts are going to be is that, Trump is going to want the markets to do well. And there's always kind of things you could do to counterbalance, even, inflation, spending power, things like that. But I think if there's one thing everybody expects is that there's going to be some big changes, and big changes are hard to forecast. So I think that's why we saw some hesitation. But obviously, I think where we saw this, where I think we're seeing this rally is, I think if you look at everything, the biggest concern, I think, in a lot of what Trump has planned on the economic side is inflation. And there was some pretty inflationary, especially like the corporate tax cut, we talk about all the time. That was a big input to our current inflationary cycle. So I think that's the big concern with Trump. So I think having some relief about where inflation is before he takes office is huge.
So there's been a development in the quantum stocks today after, so we were initially bullish and we were covering the IonQ and all of these stocks rising. And then we covered how Jensen Huang at CES said they were 15 to 30 years away from being useful in business. But there's been an update today that sent the stocks a lot higher. We looked before, right as the stream was starting, IonQ was up about 35%. So, Mitra Azizarad from Microsoft, who's their chief operating officer, went on a blog post and said that they are advising businesses to become quantum ready next year, as in they believe that this quantum technology is going to become impactful almost seemingly immediately. And this sent the stocks a lot higher. So maybe you were right, George. Maybe Jensen Huang was kind of trying to throw people off the trail with this, how it's going to affect NVIDIA, this new technology.
Well, what did we say in that? It's like you can never go wrong with looking at the game theory of it, right? And the game theory says that by the very existence of these quantum stocks running in the first place, the world of quantum computing is viewed as less friendly to NVIDIA than the current world, right? Because the valuations on those stocks, the attention just wouldn't be as big if people viewed NVIDIA to be the same dominant force forecasted in high performance computing in like the quantum age, right? So I think that is a very, very important data point that we saw. So it's just like Jensen Huang's very smart, right? He has to pour cold water on that because he sees that people are valuing that, that world as not as dominant for NVIDIA. So he'd be stupid not to. So like sometimes, we fancy ourselves right about a lot of things on the stream. But that's an easy one, right? Because he has to do that. It doesn't make any sense for him to indulge an earlier timeline where people aren't pricing that timeline as beneficial for NVIDIA, right? Look at Microsoft on the other hand, right? They have a complete other alignment, right? Why? Because we talk about all the time that right now OpenAI is running at a loss for compute. And that's even why they let Microsoft buy them, because the compute was getting so expensive. And there was even a headline recently that said even their newest model, even at $200 a month for their latest tech that some people are paying for, they're still running a pretty big loss on compute. So that gives you an idea of even how powerful pre-trained models like, OpenAI has, the cost can still be significant. So why am I talking about this? Quantum computing, if you're forecasting Microsoft, a breakthrough in quantum computing completely changes the way that you value OpenAI, Microsoft right now. Because right now, the way it's going, eventually Microsoft is going to have to start charging a lot more than it does for OpenAI's models, right? The true cost, again, we don't know, but we do have these little Easter eggs that it's, higher, a lot higher. So that's why things like nuclear are being researched. That's why nuclear is a solution for cheaper power for the compute infrastructure, right? That's a big cost savings. That's why things like quantum are being looked at, because all of a sudden, right now we have to look at it as Microsoft is going to start having to charge prices that might not allow all of these apps, these universes that are using the OpenAI product to be profitable in the same way, right? What's the solution to that? Quantum computing, right? So you can always look at the incentive structures, and as a good investor, you've got to be able to make sense of all that and just be like, okay, right? There's incentives on this side, there's incentives on this side. Let's take it with a grain of salt. But to get to the more relevant part, right? Why do we always suggest, like, if you want to play quantum, play it with someone like Google, right? Because they are going to pop on good quantum news, and they're not going to get hit as hard with the same volatility. I've now seen IonQ within a few weeks have a 55% down day and then a 35% up day, which is just absolutely nuts, right? And you could easily find yourself selling at 40% down and then missing this 35% up and just kicking yourself, which is why, I kind of myself got out in front of that I saw the way IonQ was running. I saw the net option sentiment getting down. We got out of that game. Certainly we could have gotten back in it. I'm going to see where it is in momentum score today. But that all being said, you just have to be very careful about this and make sure, if you want to invest in IonQ or Qubit or anything like that, that you're prepared to, maybe even see a long time, because if Microsoft didn't come out and say this, we could have seen a lot more tough months coming. But if there's going to be these kind of battling news events, volatility, things like that, you got to be prepared to be in for the long haul. But again, that's why we say, like, hey, we'd rather exposure through Google, because we just think there's going to be more good headlines that are going to make the Google stock pop, especially because, hey, like, they're as good of a bet as anyone. And why Google over NVIDIA? Because we have these China concerns with chips NVIDIA that we've been saying. I saw NVIDIA hit 56 net option sentiment this week. That tells you that, our concerns aren't just macro, right? We actually saw a very concerned options market about NVIDIA this week. And that's why I probably will stay away from it for a while longer. I should have stuck to my guns and stayed away from it, in the first place this Sunday. But I didn't. And, sometimes you learn these lessons.
We have a question from Casey Hughes. Can you elaborate on the momentum score you would be looking for on IonQ before choosing to make a move into the stock?
Yeah, Casey, we have our own momentum score. Our trading letter, we publish the top and bottom momentum score pretty much every day. I think it's about actually the top 17 and bottom 17 stocks. Why that happened, I can't tell you. But momentum score and another like smart price target, two of our like really cool new metrics should be in the app in a pay for paying users by I'd say by June at the latest. We hope to get it in there sooner, within the next 2-3 months, but I always like to give ourselves padding. Yeah, those are some numbers that we're really excited about. And momentum score combines, moving averages. We're looking at, instead of just net option sentiment, we're looking at moving average changes in net option sentiment, upside, our newest metric, technical flow. That is like what we do for the options markets. We kind of ball up all the technical metrics into one measurement, and then social sentiment. And then basically we're looking at differences in moving averages of those numbers. And it's been amazing for us. I mean, it's a big reason why last year was our best year, because I used to have to like labor a lot over if I was going to exit stocks I was in. But now I'll just exit shorts if they get above 50 momentum score, exit longs if they get below 50. And it's become super easy for me and a lot less work. And yeah, it's a really cool score.
And so I have one follow-up question on this topic around NVIDIA and the quantum computing. Does Jensen Huang, if we perceive that he was more knowledgeable and knows that this tech is maybe going to be here sooner than 15 to 30 years, and he still said it, does that hurt his credibility? And is that a good strategy as a CEO or an entrepreneur? Like, if you kind of, just to talk up your book or kind of help your company purposefully, misrepresent what you believe to be true? It doesn't seem like that's a good strategy.
Because it's so hard. It's so hard to predict the arrival of something like quantum computing, right? It would be one thing if he said the Blackwell chip was going to be here at a certain date and it was a year later, because that's his core business. He should really have knowledge of that. That's going to hurt his credibility. But at the end of the day, you do have to be authentic, and it would probably take him to say wow, this technology moved a lot faster than I thought. He would probably get asked a question like that. And as long as you fall on your sword, no one's going to fault you. It's people will never fault you for being conservative. On the other hand, I actually think because of that principle, it could actually work in the reverse, right? I'd say it could hurt, Microsoft's credibility if they're over predicting when it's going to be there, because people prefer analysts and Wall Street analysts that are going to ding you, talk about your credibility. They actually care about you being conservative, and they're always going to ding you more for being not conservative than being conservative. So he's pretty safe there.
That's funny because I know Elon Musk has very optimistic timelines, and he's like notorious for saying things are going to happen quicker than they do. And recently, when he's been
Yeah,
asked about stuff, he says before he gives a timeline, like am often optimistic about this stuff. I could be wrong.
that helps, and that's like speaks to the authenticity I was talking about. But you also see like some of his like delivery things. The market can be very sensitive to something like a missed delivery for Elon. Just because there is a lot of optimism baked in. And I think a lot of people start saying, like, well, shit, if he's off about that, maybe he's like being too optimistic about too many things. So I think you do see that result for him. And that's why it's like such a volatile stock, because when it's riding high on beating predictions, doing very well, that kind of thing, there's like this unbridled optimism. But when you start to like miss things, that was very severe for the stock, because it started to say like, oh, like what can we trust if he missed this number or missed this delivery, et cetera. So I do think it works against him, even with that caveat. But yeah, you will like that caveat is surprisingly important, because if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't kind of, like I said, be authentic, fall on your own sword a little bit, then it does hurt your credibility a lot more.
So speaking of Elon, we have a couple other stories. So the SEC opened up a lawsuit against him over his Twitter acquisition. So I guess we know who his first target of the Doge is going to be now. Probably the SEC versus Elon battle continues. But then he also has been given an office in the White House. So this story we've been covering about how, the integration of Elon into like the government, and how Tesla's now associated with it, and the regulations that their full self-driving might face or now be quicker, looks like it's kind of being concrete and finalized with him being given an office. I also saw that at the inauguration, Elon, Bezos, and Zuckerberg are expected to all be in attendance. So that's going to be a pretty cool video to see them all in one place. Hopefully they're right next to each other. But yeah, how do you feel about this? The Musk being given an office in the White House, helping
Well,
Tesla.
I think we're really it's going to tell us some really interesting things about the future of democracy, right? Because I think sometimes, whatever is established by one party typically gets, followed by the other. And they're just like, oh, we can do that. So we're going to see how much favoritism, can be established, right? Because if we see something like exclusive access to full self-driving, if we see like investigations into someone that are killed because they're associated with the president and everything like that, and I think in a way that might be why you saw this filed now, right? I think it's going to be a test to see, how independent this can be, because yeah, I mean, I think if we see that kind of thing happen, there's a, I think history is always an important thing to study. And before the Protestant Reformation, right, there were these things called indulgences, where you could basically like buy your way into heaven. And basically like Martin Luther, who, basically was the start of the Protestant Reformation, basically had a problem with these indulgences. And his thing was basically like, we got to get back to the Bible. Anyway, the indulgences are what I really want to talk about, because basically a lot of people said that those things were getting kind of out of control. Why am I talking about this? Because we might basically be seeing like, there was a level of, corruption that was acceptable, where you made your donations, but, that was kind of more in the dark what you got. But if we're all in this, like, hey, if you campaign for a president the way Elon Musk did, if you go all in on them, maybe you could literally have the benefits to your company, run through the government, right? And I think that is going to be a very interesting thing for us to see, to see if that actually happens. So yeah, I'm going to be looking out for that, because I then think we might have like a state of indulgences, right, where it gets to a new level, where you basically just have these businesses that are strongly aligning themselves with the presidential candidate, in the expectation that presidential, like if that president wins, that they're just going to openly be favorites to certain businesses. Whereas I think that happened a little more, like underneath the surface before. I think this would have it reach a whole new level for everyone involved. And, I say that because, sometimes I look at this level of corruption by both parties. And, that's kind of what I like to say. I'm a single issue voter on corruption. I basically hate it, and I'll vote for whoever I perceive to be combating corruption more. But, it's kind of the yin and yang of this. Like, maybe this is finally the straw, just seeing all this out in the open is finally what gets a lot more people to care about things like campaign finance reform, real like new policy that will stop corruption. Because I think if there's one thing that I think pretty much everyone agrees on is it's getting pretty out of control as it is. And someone inside the White House that's just like openly like creating policy for themselves, which we haven't seen yet, right? But if we see that, policy that just like directly targets and benefits someone's businesses that are in the White House, I think that's a new, like literally in the White House with an office. That's probably a new level of corruption. And, there's plenty of people that say, hey, like, I love Elon Musk. I actually don't mind him fixing things in his image. But that might be exactly, we're so like polarized at this point. I think some people that are very excited about it, there's other people that are like completely appalled by that. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out here and forward.
So if you're like someone who's watching the stream, you're just a normal person, sure, you can vote, and like that's one way you can make an impact, but in all honesty, like you're not really going to change anything. So if you're not going to change anything, I feel like you might as well capitalize on the situation. So do you think it's going to become easier to pick stocks if the situation you're saying develops? Because, a company, say Tesla or any in the future, will have essentially the backing of the government, which puts a big wind at their sail. And, why would you bet against those companies if that's the situation they're in?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is you have to predict the winner, right? Like we added Tesla like right after the election, but we added Coinbase before the election, and that was kind of predicting the winner, right? So like you'll get bigger gains if you pick the winner, right? But yeah, I mean, I think some of it is like sometimes you have to do the obvious, right? And we loaded up on a lot of coin and Tesla, like as net option sentiment cooled, we got out, but we're looking for net option sentiment to come up again, get back in. Hopefully we don't miss some big announcement while we're doing that. But yeah, I mean, I think if you look at what we've done with Coinbase and, again, like obviously I think I see a question there that you're going to have to read to me because I can't see it because of the sun. But yeah, all of that is just kind of playing into that, where it's just like, I think Tesla is a little harder, and we've talked about this. It's a little harder, A, because I don't see the net option sentiment as high, so that's making my decision easier. But B, we don't know exactly the legislation, the timeline, or everything in the same way that there's a lot more, immediate bull events like the new SEC chair coming in. That is just like, that's a shorter, clearer timeline than some of the stuff that we're waiting for with Tesla. And Coinbase, as it is trading. I think I haven't looked at it recently, but I believe it's trading at like a better valuation, better entry point than Tesla too. So you have both of those things working for it.
Yeah. So the question was just from Jonathan asking about what did you see in coin to make you add so many positions? You kind of answered it, but maybe specifically what you saw in it.
So yesterday I closed a lot of positions, right? And that was just because, I always say this, volatility makes me nervous. I even closed Meta and reopened it just to be defensive, just because Meta kind of had a hard day yesterday and that option sentiment was going down just like a twinge. But so what did I see? I saw that like, I like with all of this positive stuff with Trump, the only thing I could envision was that people were, and I kept saying this, people were beating up that stock to get a better entry point, beating up Bitcoin to get a better entry point, because there's just like, I would be truly shocked if the next 6 months weren't littered with positive cryptocurrency, blockchain headlines, whatever. So it's only a matter of time before like those headlines just start making it work, right? So there's the macro picture. There's the fact that, net option sentiment stayed at 100 for Coinbase, while I saw a little more weakness, just a tinge more weakness in Meta. And then I just saw I saw a better technical price floor on Coinbase too. And I can tell you exactly what I was looking at. I was looking at the 4 hour. I was just looking at the 4 hour price chart, and I was looking at the what is it? The 4 hour price chart and the MACD, and like both of those were looking good even yesterday. Like those look to be on the upswing, Meta looked to be on the downswing. And, at the end of the day, the third factor was QQQ net option sentiment was showing a lot of strength, like versus SPY. So I had to be long something to capture that QQQ optimism. And it just was a process of elimination. Nothing looked nearly as good with like all of the factors that I'm talking about as Coinbase. So I said, I'd rather have Coinbase 3 times than like Coinbase, NVIDIA, Meta, right? And I kept Snowflake because that was like a smaller cap one that I liked, that had a really good still positive net option sentiment trend, just to like diversify a little. But yeah, when I looked at Coinbase side by side with any of the other large cap growth names that we wanted to capture that QQQ optimism, they just weren't comparable. And so like that was my way to manage risk. And I was managing risk so much, even though I was optimistic, I closed one of the 3 positions before I went to bed, just because I said to myself, like, man, I don't want to wake up tomorrow to crypto down 4% and my portfolio being torched tomorrow for the whole year, like basically, because we're still new, and a big swing like that in 3 of my positions could have sent it, the complete other direction that we're going in. And we managed to recover quickly. We got as low as 27% above. I think we're back over 100. So that's how much it could swing earlier in the year. And like, sometimes you have to make those emotional assessments, right? Where I'm just like, you know what? I'm bullish on coin, more bullish than anything else right now. But I don't want to wake up to 3 of my positions being down like this. 2, I could handle a little better. It'll sting, but 3 will hurt a little more. I'm going to close out a lot of my shorts too, just to get a little more conviction. And yeah, worked out well for me today. Could have been better. I made some slips. I wanted to close Con Edison yesterday. I really did, but like net option sentiment went from 8 to 16. And that's like a perfect example of where judgment calls can be really hard, because it did go up a little bit. I was a little nervous that the price action was turning, but I was just like, I don't know. Maybe people start hating it again tomorrow with these fires. But yeah, in these markets, it's so tight. And that's what I've been writing about in the newsletters. Like so much can change so quickly that I've just been in any given day, opening up new positions at the end of the day for protection, Texas Instruments being a really good example, right? And I got out of Texas Instruments this morning, even before the good news on CPI, just because I saw QQQ showing a little more strength when I woke up. So I said, hey, like de-risking that way. But yeah, that's how I've been managing it. I've been playing defense, before I put down my work for today. And then in the morning, figure out where I want to play offense, where I want to like change my positions before the market opens, because it's been that volatile and challenging.
That's a great answer for Jonathan. Hopefully that satisfies your question. I have 3 more topics, so if we could just try to rip through these ones real quickly, because we're pushing on the time for the model portfolio. But So Meta announced they are going to be cutting 5% of their workforce in the lowest performers, and Microsoft is also cutting jobs in their gaming and sales divisions. Two of the leaders in AI, is this a sign that they are gaining the efficiency that has been promised from the technology?
Yeah, right. I mean, there was my silent firing article basically calling out Amazon, but I think any large cap growth, it's what we've talked about, right? It's obvious. Like if you're spending all this money on AI, you have to show ROI, and the best way to show ROI is headcount. I think in Meta's case, they're really trying to like pander to Wall Street a lot, pander to like they're doing a great pandering job. That's one of the reasons we like them, right? I'm not even saying pandering in a negative way. The best way to take care of your stock price is to pander to Wall Street. So they did that dividend. They're doing a headcount reduction, even though they're super profitable. These are all the things that, Wall Street loves.
Okay, so we had a bunch of the big banks report this morning, and it seemed pretty good across the board. One stat that caught my eye was that BlackRock, their assets under management was up 15% year over year and reached 11.55 trillion. And I know a lot of people have kind of reservations at the size of BlackRock is. Is there a point where you grow too much and you're too big for your own good?
Not in finance. I mean, the more assets you have, the more powerful you are, the easier it is to gather assets. The more you can throw your weight around, all of those things. Like I remember that story that I talked about where I heard that BlackRock cleared $1 billion in GME just loaning out shares, right? Because they had so many shares, they loaned them out to be shorted. The interest rates, the borrow rates on them went up, and like that's the size, the scale that just helps you find things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's scary because the bigger these places get, the easier it is for them to be dominant over retail, even be dominant over smaller institutions. But there's a lot of scale, especially with all the automation. They have their Aladdin system that works very well in terms of automation for them. So yeah, it's a game, and I'm also not surprised that we're seeing these profits go up. The more assets you have, the easier it is to make profits, and also the easier it is to move the markets in ways that are going to be profitable for you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I'll save this final topic and we can do our switch over. For everyone watching, it'll be Tuesday next week because the market's closed Monday. So not our normal Monday live stream. We'll be live Tuesday at 11 a.m. But so George, we'll see you on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So everybody stick around. We'll be doing the model portfolio update when George joins us again on the other side of his switch over into the Prospero.ai laboratory. Taking a live look at the markets, it looks like they just have continued up throughout the day. The QQQ is up almost 2.5%, the SPY up almost 2%, Dow Jones 1.7%, and IWM 2% exactly. So just green across the board. Are you guys upset that the market's going to be closed on Monday? What are you guys going to do with your free time? Anybody planning anything fun, or you're just going to be sitting at home wishing the market was open? All right, so what I'm going to do now is pull up the QQQ and SPY again in Prospero and take another look at it in the app to see what we are seeing, if anything has changed in the net option sentiment since we started the stream. The QQQ is still at 51 in net options sentiment, and the SPY is at 41. So no changes there since we began the stream. Let's see what some of the moves and some of the biggest stocks are making right now. Get a live look at Tesla is up over 8%, Microsoft up over 2%, Meta up over 4%, Amazon up over 2%, Apple up 2%. So just green across the board today. What a mega rally. Mario searching for change in the couch. Yep, I'll join you, Mario. That's my Monday plans now.
What?
I asked the stream, what are you going to do with your free time on Monday with the market close? He said searching for change in the couch is his plans for Monday. I'll join.
Okay, let me get this all set up. I'm curious while I do this, has it been I heard some people are having a very tough start to the year. Has it been tough? Has Prospero helped you do a little better?
Yeah, the volatility in the market has probably not been fun for investors.
Yeah, okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, what's the
QQQ is 51 and the SPY is 41. Taco Dreams held my meta stock because of Prospero's rating. Mario, Prospero has been great, and really, the slow start is in the rearview mirror now.
great? Yep, look at that large cap growth. That's interesting, large cap growth, but then
This is why we always adjust slowly and do not do complete reversals. It wasn't the hardest call to make given the volatility, but nonetheless, we are glad we made it. No surprise to see financials there given the positive earnings reports, but tech and comms recovering is a welcome sight as well, as we held onto many of our positions there. We will look to expand exposure here a bit again, given the behavior today. Comment from Jordbo, nice moves on oil too. Maybe that could be because of the ceasefire news.
yeah, definitely. But I don't really want to play energy necessarily because it's been so volatile lately. Could have done this faster. Let's make sure this is all good. Clear this out. Okay, let's see. I don't know if the person that asked about this is still here. A lot of consumer cyclical options. Great, because we did want to increase our exposure there a bit. Why do I keep doing that? Okay, look. Okay. I think we also just want to get. I think we're going to add team and. Yeah, we're going to add team. Let me just make this easier on everyone. Nice mix. I think so. I don't know if I want to. Yeah. All right, what do we have here? And yeah, I think. All right, I'm going to see. How this shakes out. Now, GME one. Yeah, I think that's probably big enough. Change. Let's see.
We got a question in our chat from a new user. He's asking how they can see the spreadsheet or reports with these scores.
The trading letter is like, if you subscribe to the trading letter, you'll get our top and bottom momentum score picks every day.
I'll share a link to it in the chat and just give me 1 second. I'm going to get it right now for you.
Yeah, and if you email me at George@Prospero.ai, I can give you a discount code. What do I want another tech. I think FICO, yeah. Z and FICO.
We got some love from Michael Dodd. Fantastic program as always, guys. Prospero app is valuable educational resource. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. All right, I think we are good on that. We are just going to take a quick look, why not, at our investing letter positions. EST still looking good. Snow. How about not that many of these anymore? FL post Xerox. No, those are all good. But I might want to, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 and 3. I might want to go 7, 4. I might want to add just one new of each. Wait, let me just make sure I'm all good here. I am. What's going on with Dell? What's the net option sentiment on Dell like?
Dell is at 39.
Yeah.
And the trend is declining.
Team long, Dell short. But I kind of want, what's going on with Broadcom? Not great. FICO is not right. Do we get back into app? Is it time? I mean, team just looks stronger.
Question about the picks that you're making. Is it allocated in the portfolio as equal weight?
Yes, unless otherwise said it is. Okay, so I think we're going to do that. I think we're going to add team long and Dell short. Where's Snow in this? What's going on with Snow? I do still think team long. Not a good technical flow. What's going on with SE? It's looking good. All right. All right, I like. God, Xerox just being a pain in my butt. All right. Dell short. Do we have, what's going on with ANF? Yeah. All right, so we're going to do C. C and team long. Dell and ANF short. See how this goes. We're getting back to our guns a little bit. Okay. All right, any questions?
No new questions in our chat.
All right. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Yep. Thanks for being here, chat. Like I said, we'll be live Tuesday. So just remember, have a fun Monday with the market closed, everybody. But see you back here then.